And no worries if you don't want your cameras on. You don't have to have your cameras on. No big deal. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be sharing my screen. So today, what we're going to cover is we're actually going to cover the new admin site that was released about a month, 6 weeks or so ago by our vendor that supplies OK Career Guide. So their name is Cooter, Kuder. And I would love to go over that with you today. If you do not have access to this yet, please let me know so that we can get you access. But in order to get there, you can go just to the main OK Career Guide landing page. So okcareerguide.org will take you there. And under the Get Started Today option, you'll go under 6 through 12 login, and you will log in as an administrator. And that is how you're going to be able to get to this page. Now, what I have done is I've actually just bookmarked it so that I just have to go to the bookmark, but that is how you can get there. And then you'll just log in with your email and your password. So I'm already logged in, but I'm logged in on Chrome, but I wanted to show you the way to get there. So once you are logged in, this is the site that you will see. And we're going to go over all the features today, but we're going to focus specifically on assessment. So today's training is more of an emphasis on assessments, since this is kind of the time that students start doing those for their ICAP. So if you have any questions as we go along, please throw it in the chat and we will answer as we please, or you can come off mute. You're more than welcome to come off mute at any point. So the first thing I want to start with is up here in this corner. So just a very quick overview. This is where you can search for an individual student. We'll come back to that in just a little bit. Under settings is where you can reset your password, update your email if that's changed, any of that. Under notifications is where you are going to see anything that students have done in the recent last few days. And then under the little person is just going to show you your profile. The main thing I point out under that is what level of access you have in the administrative account. So you can see I'm a district admin. If you are not a district admin and you think you need to be, which we will go over in just a moment, then we need to change your access from whatever it is to district. This is important in terms of inviting instructors, teachers, anybody else to have an admin account. We'll go over that again, like I said, in just a second. So that is what those little icons at the top right represent. You probably won't use those a ton, but just pointing those out. And then on the home page, just really quickly, you're just going to see a welcome, your name, and you're going to see a quick overview of insights. And then down here, you're going to see reports. We will come back to those too. But the one thing I want to show you is schools. So under schools, if you have district level admin access, you are going to see all of your schools under this. And so you're going to want to make sure you're in the correct school whenever you are looking at reports and things. So I'm going to select the high school because that's what I'm wanting to look at today. And so again, we'll come back to this home page in just a little bit and take a closer look at assessment details. But that's really what that home page does. As a quick synopsis. Any questions so far? Has anybody had trouble getting into their account? Lindsay, I know we've been working with you. Miss Baker, I don't know about you. Have you been able to get into your admin account by chance?
Yeah, I can get in. I can get in.
Okay, just wanted to make sure because we've had some folks say it's been kind of an issue, but I'm so happy that you can. So that's great. So over here in this left-hand menu is what we're going to focus on for the time being. Like I said, we'll come back to this home page in just a little bit. So there are 4 different categories you can look through on this menu. So the first place I'm actually going to start is at the bottom under organization management. And so you will have district and school. Now, if you're a district level admin, then you'll have the district management. If you do not have district level access, you'll only have school management. So this is important, and I'm going to show you why. So under district management, since I have district level admin access, I am able to invite a teacher, another counselor, a principal, an assistant principal, any of the above to also have admin access. So if I scroll down here, I am able to see who all has district level access. And so you can see who set up their account over this under the status column as well. But this is important because this is where, again, if you want to invite your teachers to have access to this, this is where you do it. So under invite user, it's going to pop up and ask you for their contact info. So you would just enter their contact info. And let's just say I am an English, and you don't even have to put a specific title. You just say English teacher. And then you're going to see roles that you can assign to these individuals. So if it's a teacher, you can assign them an educator access. If it's a local school administrator, maybe a career coach, maybe a work-based learning coordinator for your school, things like that. They may not need to look at every single school under your district, but they may need to see a little bit more. So educators, their role in the system is very limited. They can only pull and see certain things. This one gets a little more access, and then district admin gets the full range, the entire system. So you can select educator, school admin, and then down here, oops, I was clicking too much. And then down here, you can select what site they're going to get access to. And they can be multiple, or it can just be one. If you select district admin, they're going to get access to every organization in your district. And then you click invite user, and they will get an email from Cooter. It's going to be a do not reply at cooter.com. A lot of people ignore that because they don't know what that is. So be sure as you're inviting your teachers and whoever to let them know that they're going to get an email that will allow them to create their email login and their password. So that is how you will do that. Now, if I go over under organization management again, and I go to school management, I'm then going to see who all has the certain level of access. So I can see these folks have educator access, and they've set up their accounts, whereas Caitlin has a pending password set up. So that means she got an email, hasn't set it up yet. And so that's where you can kind of know where your folks are. You also can select by name and remove access to certain people if you want. Say they leave or move or go to a different location, whatever. So keep that in mind. Okay, any questions so far? Alrighty, so another thing I do want to show you that is very important is, again, under the school management right here, you're going to see activation codes, and these are specific to each site. So for example, our middle school training has a specific activation code versus our high school. And this code allows you to move students from one site to another. And so why this is important is if you have students in the middle school who maybe have moved to the high school now, they're now at the high school, you can easily move those students over to the high school as long as you have your high school encode. I call them the encode. I'm also pulling up something else. So if you're trying to move out any students who have transferred or graduated and they are clogging up your data and you need their account moved out, then we also have what I call the state archive code, which is right here, this little number right here. I'll give you a second if you want to write it down. I'll also send it to you in an email once we're done. But this is the code you would use to move those students out. And yes, I am going to show you how you can move those students out in just a moment. But that is the code you need for the Oklahoma resident. And then when I say Oklahoma resident, I mean that's the state archive. That's where the student goes as a placeholder where their account sits so that no information is lost, but it's not clogging up your school. Okay, so let's act as if I am wanting to move my middle school students over to the high school. I would go under school management and go to the high school location right here. And I'm just going to copy that code because that moves my middle school to my high school. Now, after I've copied that code, I'm actually going to go back to that left-hand menu, and under organize students and groups, I'm going to see transition students. So I'm going to click on transition students. And this is where I want to make sure I'm in the middle school now. So I'm going to select the middle school and deselect the high school. And you can see I don't have a whole lot. That's okay. You guys will probably have more than I do. But under advanced filters right over here, I can select just 8th grade. And I can select my 2 students who are in the 8th grade. I can either do it individually or I can do it by mass up here. And then I click this pretty little transition selected students. And I enter that code or I paste that code, and then I would click validate code. And now, no longer are they in the middle school, they are now in the high school. Now, it's very important for me to also tell you that even though they're now moved to the middle school, their grade will still reflect 8. Now, Cooter has agreed that they're going to start rolling students over by grade. So that should change to 9 once they're out of the 8th grade. It should roll over to 9th grade, but you will still want to move them from the middle school to the high school if your middle school uses OK Career Guide. Now, say you have seniors that you want to move out to our state archive. You would select high school here, and then you would do advanced filters and select 12th grade. And then it's going to show you your 12th graders. And you can either go by one, or you can select all at once up here. Click transition selected students, pick out your high school code, and that's where we're going to enter the state archive code. And you can see mine saved, but I just paste it there, validate code, and moves them from your high school to the state archive. So again, I will be sure to send that info your way so that you have it, but that's how you can clean up your account and your students' accounts. Okay, starting fresh back at the home page. Any questions so far? Okay, so I'm going to go back to that left-hand menu again, and I'm going to go under organize students and groups this time. And you will remember at the beginning, I was walking you through how you can invite a teacher to have an educator admin account. And so a lot of people say, okay, well, what would I use that for? So say you have advisory groups and Miss Johnson has a random mix of students in her advisory group. You can assign those specific students to Miss Johnson's group on the admin site. Miss Johnson logs into her account and she can just see her group of students and doesn't have to filter through and weed through 200 some other students on the admin site. She would just see her 20 or whatever students that she has in that advisory group. So let's say you invited Miss Johnson, and now you're going to go create a group. So let's go to create a group right over here.
I have a quick question when you're done with this
Yes.
part.
Do you want to go ahead and ask? Or do you want me to
Well,
wait?
I guess my question was because we were just talking about this in our counselors PLC today, because a lot of our Keystone teachers teach a freshman level class where they do health and personal financial literacy and some ICAP stuff. And so we were saying it'd be great to maybe assign each Keystone teacher their roster of kids. But we also were like, oh, well, each counselor should be assigned to their caseloads as well. So I guess, is it possible to assign, counselors to students and then also teachers to students?
Yes, absolutely it is. Let me show you, let me walk you through it. And then if that doesn't make sense, jump in and I can see if I can clarify. So yes, great question. So let's act as if you're creating a group. So under create a group right here, you would make sure your correct school is selected. So I'm going to select the high school for us. And maybe I have a, all grades. So I have every grade that's going to be in this advisory group. So I'm just going to select at random. And so I just selected fake students, and I'm going to click this add students in the blue. And it's basically just going to have you name it. You can put a description if you want, but you don't need to. Now, say you've already created a group and you have a student who has transferred in or left and then came back. You can also just add certain students to an already created group. So keep that in mind. You can toggle between the two. But let's create a new group. So I'm going to say Miss Johnson Advisory Group. You don't have to put a description unless you want to. And so now I have created that group. And so that is where Miss Johnson will have access to those specific students, okay? And you can edit the group as you please. So if you need to delete students out, you can delete any out. Right down here, you can add any students into it. Very easy to add and remove. And so now let's go back over under organize students and groups. I'm going to go to my group list. And you're going to see Miss Johnson Advisory Group right here. And so what I can do is I can copy that group. So see that little human over here, little copy group option, and I can copy any of my educators down here. So I could copy my fake teacher account. It's not going to let me select this one because this is the one I'm logged into. So I already have access to this group, but I could also add Nathan, I could add Julie, I could add John, and they would all have access to that specific group. And then I would copy group to those users. Okay. So pretty easy to do, but they do have to be invited through that district management and have an account already set up in order to then be invited. So that's why I started over there and then moved over to this creating a group. Does that make sense, Lindsay? Do you think that could work?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think, yeah, it's just a matter of getting in and
It's just
navigating
getting in.
around. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good to know because we wanted to be able to see, like as counselors, kind of have oversight, but then know that the Keystone teachers were working with their specific groups too. So that's good.
Exactly. So that's perfect. So you can see any group. So like Lindsay, if you went in and created a group, you'd be able to see any of those groups here. But you'd also be able to add any educator, anybody to that group as well. So again, that was under creating a group and group list. So great, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. We're going to take a look at the student list now. So under organize students and groups, student list. So this is where you're going to see all of your students pop up. And one thing I like to point out is this is where you can find your student's username. So if your student's like, I can't get into my account, I don't remember my username. Okay, no big deal. I'm going to use myself as an example. I have a fake student account named Tammy Taylor. So I can see, okay, Tammy Taylor, your username is K. Will Hoyt. And that way you're not going to go and create a new account. You already have one. We can already get you back into this old one. No reason to create duplicate accounts. But say they're like, well, I can't remember my password either. You can click into that student and you can actually generate a temporary password. So let's do that now with me. I'm going to generate a password for my fake student account. And you're going to see it's going to stay there. It's not going to go away until the student uses it. So say they're like, you don't see them till the next day or the next week or whatever. And they're like, I still can't remember how to get in. You can pull this back up and copy that temporary password. So this is my temporary password. I'm going to act as if I'm going to log into my student account. So under my 6 through 12 login, I'm logging in as a student and I'm entering K. Will Hoyt. But I need to paste that password or enter that password that's temporary. So now I'm going to log in, and it's going to ask me to now create a new password. So this is where it's ideal if your students use their lunch number or their mascot in the year they graduate as their password so that they don't forget it. So that's where you can go if a student's telling you, hey, I don't remember how to get into my account. You actually can go find it for them. Username, then you can click on their account and generate password. You also can search for a student up here. Like I mentioned earlier, we'd come back to this. So I'm going to search for Tammy Taylor up here in this column or this main search option. But when you search for me, you're going to notice it just gives me basic info. It doesn't actually give me my username. So if you're needing to find a username, it's going to be under student list. All righty. Now let's spend just a little bit of time looking at that student profile. So I've clicked into my fake student account, and you're going to see their student information here. Now you can see my temporary password went away because I used it already. So it won't go away until the student uses it. You can also have parents and guardians invited to have access to their student's account if you want to. Under Discover, it's going to show you the student's assessment results. So you're going to see interest assessments. Well, you're going to see top clusters, top pathways, and work values. And then down here, you're going to see interest assessment, when the student did it. You're going to see skills confidence, when the student did it, and then work values. And you can view those specific results here if you need to. But for ICAP purposes, you could always pull this up and show this as proof that the student did it for academic years 2020 through 2024 or whatever. Under Explore, you probably won't need this for ICAP, but if you're doing anything more advanced, you could look at what the students have favorited under their account. So maybe they've starred certain things. They've liked different universities or tech centers. You can see what they're looking at. You can also see what they're considering after high school. So I'm considering a community college or tech program. Under Plan is where you're going to see their goals. You can see their goals. If they are still in progress, that's okay. That's still considered complete by ICAP standards, so they don't have to be completed to be counted for that academic year. You can also see their education plans. So you can see any ed plan they've done. You can select into one. So I'm going to select into 11th grade. And when I look at Tammy, I can see what she did for her 11th grade year. And I can either approve it or deny it if I want. Now, I'm not going to touch this right now because I want to use it for something in the future. But this is where you could go take a look at what your students have submitted to you and approve or deny. If you deny it, it sends it back to the student and they can go back in and fix whatever they need to. You also can edit the plan for them. So say a student has entered the wrong course, you could go in to whatever grade and change the course for them if you need to. So keep that in mind, okay? All right, I'm gonna go back up here to student details and it's gonna take us back to plan. So goals and ed plans. I can also take a look at ICAP right here, and that's going to show me what the student has done in their account for ICAP. So maybe they've taken the ASVAB, they have done their FAFSA, they haven't done their work-based learning component yet, and they've done their ed plan for 9th grade year, they've done their goals for 10th grade year, and so forth and so on. So that will show you a quick overview under ICAP. And then under, I'm not going to go to prepare because that's more, well, actually, I do want to go to prepare. I lied. I'm going to go to prepare. So under documents, this is where if a student has uploaded anything to their My Documents in that left-hand menu on the student side, this will show up there. So like maybe they put in an additional assessment they've taken, or they put in a reflection sheet from their work-based learning experience. You'd be able to find that here under Prepare. And then I'm going to click on Student Portfolio. And this is where you're going to get just a quick synopsis of everything for that student. So you can see when their assessments were taken, when their goals were done. You can see when they've done ed plans. You can also see their results of their assessments here. You can see their goals in a list detail. You can see any of their favorites. You can see the ed plan that they recently submitted here. And if you keep going, you can see their resume if you need to. So that's just going to be a quick synopsis of everything that student has done in their OK Career Guide account. Now, this could be helpful if a regional accreditation officer comes and says, I want to see Nathan Brubaker's student ICAP report. You could go to their student portfolio and it would show their assessments, their goals, their ed plans, and any work-based learning that they've done. All righty. Any other questions so far? Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to this left-hand menu. I'm not going to spend a ton of time. Actually, I'm not going to spend any time under additional resources. This is just where if you want to send a message to your students, you can post a message and they will all receive it on the student side. So if I log in to my student account here, if you were to send a message, it would show up here under their little messages. And then same for posting a resource. So if you ever want to post a resource on the student side of OK Career Guide, it shows up right down here under recommended resources. So you are always more than welcome to add any of those as you please. It's super easy to do. So if you ever need to send a message, you do that here. If you ever want to post a resource or take out any, you can post a resource there. Under access resources, that's just going to show you curriculum. So I don't want to spend a ton of time on that. Now, last thing I want to show you here is configure student plans. And the two options under that is course manager and configure ICAP. So I'm going to show you my student side really quickly. So on my student side in this left-hand menu, there's an ICAP Oklahoma option kind of in the center of that left-hand menu. And this is what I call the Oklahoma green cards. So once these load, you're going to see this is where the student can keep up with their ICAP progression. So there is a before graduation, and then down here, it breaks down the 3 things they have to do each year, breaks it down by grade. So 9th grade, they need to do their assessments, their goals, and their education plan. 10th grade, their assessments, their goals, their education plan. They don't have to mark that off unless you want them to. That's up to you. 11th grade, assessments, ed plan, goals, and if they took the ACT or SAT. They do want to mark that off. You'll want to have them mark ACT off. And then 12th grade, same thing. So I wanted to show you that so you can see what the students see and how you can make that work for your individual school. So if I go over to my admin account under configure ICAP right here, and I select my high school, I'm actually going to continue with the existing plan I have. So now you can see before graduation. So I have certain things set up as before graduation. I have some cards disabled so the students don't even see them. Some of these I have as, again, before graduation, and then others I have specific to grades. So let me just edit this first one, personal information. And I actually could take that out entirely. I actually could toggle that off if I don't want that on there. If I'm like, that's not really necessary. So I just turned that off. Let me show you what it looks like now. It's just going to remove that component from the students' before graduation cards. So you can turn off, delete, remove anything you want. And then I can edit that and I can turn it back on if I want. Now, if you want to assign it to a specific grade, I'm going to click edit here. And I can assign it to, like I did, 9th through 12th grade years, because they need to do those assessments all 4 years. But if I'd prefer for it to be under that top component, the before graduation, I could just select that and it would just show up under the before graduation. But I don't want to do that because I want them to do their assessments every year. Same with work-based learning. I want to show you that as an example. So if I edit my work-based learning and I can see if I want to assign it to before graduation, I can, or if I want to assign it to a specific grade. So maybe they do their Career Tech Center tour their 10th grade year. So I just want sophomores to see that. You can just have sophomores see that. If only my juniors and seniors go on college tours, I could just make it where just my juniors, seniors see that. And so forth and so on. So you can really filter it however you want, save it however you want. You also can add new work-based learning tasks. So maybe there's something specific that your school does and you want to assign it to a specific grade or before graduation. You can leave it under before graduation or you can assign it to a specific grade. However you please, you can change that as you want. You also can delete certain tasks here. If some don't relate to your school, you can delete them. Okay. And then last but not least, you can also add a new custom card. So maybe your school does something very specific and you want to have a custom card just for that. You could add a custom card here and then students see that custom card. You'll see that I included FAFSA, but I could take out any of these here if I want. If that doesn't really matter to me, I could take that out. Same with that US history assessment, that doesn't have to be there under 10th grade if I don't want it to. I could edit that and turn that off entirely. So keep that in mind, but that is how you can do those Oklahoma green cards. Any questions about any of that? Alrighty. Last thing, and then we're going to move back to the home page, is the course manager under configure student plans. So let's click into that. This is where you can edit your education plans for what your students see. So maybe you've had a new course come in or an old course go away or a course has been changed in some capacity. You could select your high school and you're going to see the current file that is downloaded for education plans on the student side. So let me go to my student account really quickly. I'm going to go to my ed plans and I'm going to take a look just at my fake account right here. And then I want to show you how this compares. Okay, so I have my current file here. I'm going to download it and it's going to download as an Excel doc right here. Now you have to do it this way so that it saves anything from the past and anything that you add to this Excel doc. But what I want to show you is how this is laid out. So you've got a course category, a subject area, area of study, course number, title, credits. And then if you want to assign a specific course to only your seniors, you could make the minimum and the maximum grade 12. You can change that as you please. Maybe a credit has changed and it's only worth half a credit. If you want to add any courses in, you would just scroll to the very bottom of your document. Mine's really long. And you would enter new course. Right, and that's how you would do that if you want to add any courses. Now, what I have been recommending is saving your file. When you save it as Ed Plan 9/26, 2023. That way you know when the most recent one was. So you may just be sure to save the date as you save it to your desktop or your documents or whatever you save it to. So now I want to show you on my student. So notice here for American Lit English 3, my junior English, the category is English. Then I've got ELA. The test center is our tech training. Here's the course number, the title, what it's worth, and any student can see it no matter what their grade is. Okay. So now you see what it looks like on this end. On the student end, it's going to show up and show English 3. It really would show the full course for your student. So if I edit that, edit that same plan, and I go under here, you can see that it's under area of study is tech training. And you can see ELA English 3 worth 1 credit. So that's how they align from the student side to the admin side. So once you have saved this document, you will go into your course manager again, and you'll actually upload new library, and you can either drag and drop or click to upload. Upload it, process the file, and it's done. So should already be there ready for you, and you can make any edits or changes to it as you please. So, alrighty, I'm going to go back to the home page because I want to focus more on the assessments now. So as you can see on the insights, you can just have a quick overview of how many students have not started their assessments here. So I can see 611 have not started their interest assessment and so forth. And I can actually click into that. So let me click into career interest. And you'll see it loads, and I can see the amount of students who have not started it. Again, now it's showing 612. And so you can also filter this by a specific date range if you'd like. And you can also look at just your groups. So if I toggle over to groups, I can select which group I'd like to look closer at. So super easy to get an overview of specific students or all of your students. So if I'm looking at my seniors, I would go to advanced filters right over here, select my seniors, not started. And then I can say, okay, I need to go track down these students. They need to go ahead and do their assessments because all their other classmates have, it's those that have not. And I need to make sure I'm in the right school. So now I can see, okay, these are my seniors who have not done their assessments yet. You also can print this page or download it as an Excel doc if you would prefer to just have it on hand. But this way you can kind of keep track of where your students are in terms of their progression in the assessments. Okay, I'm going to go back to reporting home, and you can click into any of those, however you would like. But the other thing I want to focus on is under assessment status. So if I click assessment status and I'm in the high school, this is actually going to show me all 3 assessments combined. So again, that was under reporting home, at the bottom, assessment status. And this is going to show just a status of student assessments for all 3. So if you're like, okay, I know that just my freshmen take the career interests, you could just select under insights the career interests and filter by freshmen. You wouldn't have to look at all 3. But if you know your freshmen through your seniors take all 3, this is the report I would run. And so again, you can filter by a date range. You can toggle between schools and groups. And you can also just look at certain grades. So I'm going to say my 12th graders. And then I could say, okay, I've got 417 students who have not done a single one of their assessments. Great, I have to get this started, right? So yours surely won't have this many as you go, but that is the best way to just have an overview of where your students are for all three. And again, you can sort by a date range. So if I want to go look at Miss Johnson's advisory group, okay, I can see that those 3 students have not started their assessments yet. So I want to ask Miss Johnson, hey, where are your students at with their assessments? Okay, reporting home. So again, this can be just a quick overview under insights, but assessment status is really going to show you more detail. And then you've got assessment summary. Now I do want to point this out to you. It may not be something you use super frequently, but this is helpful for just a quick aggregate summary of all of your students. So say you're going to bring in some guest speakers and you see that all of your students are really interested in health science. You could bring in a nurse, a sonographer, a doctor, a dental hygienist, any of the above to come in and talk to your certain grades about what they do. So keep that in mind. Education and training. Maybe you could bring in somebody from the tech center or from your local community college or whatever to come and talk to your students about what they do day in and day out, how they got into that career. Human services, maybe bring in a therapist, maybe bring in a social services, social work. Any of the above could be really great for those students who are interested in those careers. So that's where this could come in handy, is just if you're looking for an overview of what all of your students are interested in. Okay. The other thing I want to show you is student activity. So I'm going to click into this. And this is going to show me a quick overview as well on my students' activity for their interests, skills, confidence, and work values assessments. It's also going to show me if they've started or done their ed plan, if they've favorited anything, any goals they've done, and so forth. So I'm going to search for, okay, so I can see that Tammy Taylor has done her assessment. She's done all 3 of her assessments. She's done her ed plan, her goals, and her resume. So that's another just quick overview snippet of all of those different things that's going to show you that they need year to year. So their assessments, their ed plans, and their goals. Okay, so a couple of things just to run back through. If you go to student list, you can look at a student's assessment results under Discover. So that's going to show you a student specific assessment results here. If you want to pull some overall reports, assessment status is going to show you a little bit more about where they are, if they've done their assessments for this year or not. Assessment summary is just an aggregate overview of what your students overall are most interested in as a totality of the school. And then student activity is going to show you who has done them, as well as who's done their education plans and their goals. So I know that kind of wraps us up. Is there anything else we could go over today that you guys want to talk through or have noticed or have questions about?
I was just gonna ask, and I'm not sure if you already touched on it, but if you, on that page that you're on, if you scroll down a little bit and there's that Oklahoma ICAP report,
Yes.
is that anything that would be useful? Just because I know like when we're scrambling at the end of the school year to make sure all the seniors have everything that they need fulfilled for that, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to capture that.
Absolutely, Lindsay, I'm glad you brought that up. I was not going to cover it, but I'm actually kind of glad you brought it up because it gives me an excuse to cover it. So yeah, so let's take a look at that. So the Oklahoma ICAP report, it's an aggregate report that pulls from your students' ICAP Oklahoma page, right? So remember we talked about those Oklahoma green cards. So this is what that report pulls from. Now, I want to show you something. Under advanced filters, you're going to notice that we still have seniors from last year on this account, but we don't have 2027 students on here yet. So don't panic if you notice that. I met with folks from Cooter this morning, and they are working on getting this updated. It should be updated in just a couple weeks, so it won't be much longer. And so, yes, this is going to be the primary report I would refer you all to in terms of ICAP. So again, that's on the home page under Oklahoma ICAP report, pulls from those green cards that we talked about right under here, configure ICAP. Those all work in tandem together. So Oklahoma ICAP report, and this is going to show you all of the ICAP components that your students have to meet. So it's going to show you the amount of assessments your students have, the goals that they have, the education plans that they've done, work-based learning activities that they've done. And remember, WBL, work-based learning, that's where they go and check off any of those experiences that they've done. They can just check off one. Again, they only have to do one. And so that completes that work-based learning component, education plan, and ACT. So you remember I mentioned that they need to check off under their junior year, for example, ACT or SAT. They need to check that off because this report reads it from the student side. And you'll notice that they all say incomplete right now. They're going to say that for just a little while. If you're not sure how each different column is pulling, you can actually view definition PDF. And it's going to show you what each column does. So, for example, under assessments, so see assessments, a value of 4 or more satisfies ICAP. Goals, a value of 4 or more satisfies ICAP. Ed plans, a value of 4 or more. And then work-based learning. Entrance exam, which was ACT or SAT, and then that will complete their ICAP status. So another thing I want to point out is once this report is back up and running, don't worry about this saying incomplete for anybody below a senior, because it's always going to be incomplete. They're never ever going to complete their ICAP till they graduate. So don't let that column panic you or freak you out. Just know it's really not going to show complete until probably like April or May of a student's senior year. So for your freshmen, sophomores, juniors, don't worry about that. So great question, Lindsay. I'm so glad you asked. We are working on getting that updated. There should be coming very soon a pop-up that comes up that says, hey, just letting you know this report is not up to date yet. We are working on it. If you need it in an immediate report, reach out to us and we'll get it to you. So they can still get this report to you before the next couple weeks, but it should be up to date pretty soon.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? I do want to show you guys just one more very quick thing because I brought it up earlier, and that's under education plan. So again, on the home page under reports, you're going to see education plans. And I just want to show you mine really quickly. So remember I was looking at Tammy Taylor, and she had submitted her ed plan, excuse me. I can either, so say you have a bunch of students who have submitted their ed plans. I can either bulk approve all of these students. So say you select a bunch of them, you could bulk approve, or you could view right here. And it's going to take you back to that page. Wait, that's not what I wanted. Let me go back. Let's try that again. Tammy. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to click on my name, actually. I think that's going to take me, yeah, it's going to take me back to that same page. Okay, so I submitted 11th grade, and I can either approve or deny. If I approve it, it goes back to the student. If I were to deny that plan, Oh, and it already went through, but let me cancel it. If I were to deny that plan, I could make a little comment about why I'm denying that plan, and the student would get a notification of why I denied it. But you also, like I mentioned, there's just not enough under my fake high school account for me to show you. But if I had a bunch of students who had submitted their ed plans, I could select all of those and bulk approve them at once if I wanted to. So keep that in mind. I just don't have enough fake students to be able to do that with. So, alrighty, well, we are all done here because we talked about assessments and we've gone through each of the components over here. Does anybody else have anything else they want me to run through or have any questions? Okay, well, I'll send you guys an email either later today or tomorrow. It takes a little while to get this uploaded to YouTube. So, but if you ever need to reference this video, it will be on YouTube for you. But holler at me if you need anything. I'll email you either later today or tomorrow. Okay, guys.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Goodbye.